So I listened to a podcast around the end of the year, and it was this guy being Alex Hormozy, interviewed by Ed Milet, and the interview was really intriguing. And I went, shit, I'm gonna go check this guy out. And so then I bought these books. And the thing, don't be afraid of what I've learned here. And I've known this and I've thought this for a long time, is that we live in the mortgage business, kind of live in this echo chamber of information that we get from the people that we get it from: Barry Habib, Tim Brahim, Dave Savage, Todd Duncan, the core people. Like, we're all listening and hearing the same things from all the same people in the same industry. And so we get all the same information. It's interesting. And it's actually pretty eye-opening to go outside of it and see what else you can learn and pick up. And I've just some really good information on this guy. And he's got a really unique story. I'm not going to get into it, but he's scaled multiple businesses. His whole thing is figuring out a way to scale whatever it is you're doing and scale. And there's some just great information. And if you go online and look him up, you'll find like the courses that coincide with these books. And he just puts it out there for free because he has a reason why he does that. So you can find all of this information, but I wasn't even expecting this, because most of his stuff is about doing cold outreach and warm outreach and paid advertising and all this stuff, and just a lot of really good information. And then he comes to this referrals page, or this referrals chapter, and it talks about number one, customer referrals, word of mouth. The best source of new work is the work on your desk. And he just went through this. His original business was, he was a gym owner, and then he went to work for a gym and figured out how to get that gym a lot of clients. And so then he opened his own gym, and then he built it up to 6 gyms. And then he figured out that he had a way that he could help gym owners sell lots of people. And so he created a business that teaches gym owners how to do this. And this guy's made like a fortune doing this. But when he got to the section on referrals, it was like, wow, this is really good. And I'm thinking about all the ways that we can apply it. And it dawned on me the truth about referrals. I think I will be the first to tell you that I sucked at asking clients for referrals. I got a lot of referrals from past clients, but I did never do a very good job. I know I didn't do a very good job of asking for referrals. And it feels like it came about because you have to do a good job to get a referral, but I did a good job. And then I built a good relationship with the client. Those were my best referring customers, and became really good friends at the same time. So John Lopez, the guy that I do the motorcycle rides with every year, when he still lived in Colorado, and I've told Jacqueline she needs to get licensed in Texas because that's where John lives now. John is like John is just one of those guys that refers people naturally. Like if he likes you, he wants to help you. That's just, some people are like that. Milt Reimer, that some of you have seen that, the Reimer tree about getting referrals and how exponential that can be. Milt Reimer became a really good friend. And part of the reason was, I don't know if I got the referrals because we were friends, or if we became friends because I got the referrals. I'm not sure which came first, but I just know the guy referred me like it was a job as well. And so it behooves all of us to do this. And I think it's a big miss on our part. It was a big miss on mine. I don't know how many of you are doing this consistently and intentionally, but it's a big miss if we're not taking advantage of this, because I've always said this, like, I've never understood why I didn't get a lot more referrals. And if you look at your reviews, that's probably what you're thinking as well. Like, how come I have all these 5-star reviews, but I just don't get referrals? And so I don't get as many, I shouldn't say I don't get referrals. I just don't get as many referrals as I think I would get, because everybody gives me a 5-star review. Now, why aren't they referring me? And here's what he says: the 2 reasons most businesses don't get results. First, their product isn't as good as they think it is. And second, they don't ask for them. And I would say the second one is our biggest miss. And then it's interesting that he talks about 6 more ways to get more referrals by giving more value. 6 ways that we can do this. There are 6 ways I give referrals by giving more value. And it just so happens to map to the parts of an advertising. Anyway, call outs. The first thing he says is, like, you got to sell better customers. Jacqueline was just talking about a terrible customer that, if she had won him over, was probably never going to refer her. And if he did, who was going to refer customers like him, right? Grinders, like people that are just cheap. Like, I want a better deal. I want a better deal. Give me a better deal. You don't want none of us want referrals like that. Right. And if he ever came back, he's going to do it to you again. Is that the best you can do? Is that the best you can do? He's not a good customer. So first one is sell better customers. The second one is the dream outcome, setting better expectations. This is really an interesting part of this, because I think we do a really good job of setting expectations, but he makes the point of like, you got to figure out a way to set the expectations to a level where the customer thinks the value they're getting exceeds the price they're paying, which is the goodwill that you get. And the goodwill is what turns into the referrals. But if you set the expectations really high and you meet them, you really haven't exceeded their expectations, right? And so that's an interesting, I've never heard that, and I've never thought that before. It's just an interesting mind expanding thought that says, oh yeah, that's a really good point. Because then he talks about decreased time delay, get the results for the client faster, and decrease the effort and sacrifice, keep making yourself better. So get more people, better results. Talks about, that's an interesting way to put it, by setting better expectations. So if we're able, what he's talking about, and he goes into it, like, you can listen to this. So I'm going to give you guys the link to it, but he talks about, if you get the only way you're going to get your customer the most successful results. He used it in the example of with the gym owners that he signed up to his program. They knew they were going to be really successful if they could get them running ads in the first 7 days and get them signing up a new client within 10 days. They knew that the customer would be a good customer because the customer was doing what they needed to do to be successful. Now, I put that in the context of what we're doing here. And Jonathan, thank you for saying it, because you said, my goal is to have 2-touch approvals. So I want to set my file up so well that when I hand it off, the initial underwrite is approved with no conditions that are a surprise to anybody, including my client. And then the final approval is the second submission with the appraisal and the insurance and everything else is in there, and we're done in 2 touches. If you can do that with your customer every single time, you've created a flawless experience for them. And if you can do it fast because it's clean, you've blown them away, right? They've like, wow, shit, that was really fucking. So that's exactly what he talks about. Decrease the effort and the sacrifice. And what he says is the only way that you can do that is to make sure the customer is doing what you want them to do to create that outcome. So that's us setting the expectation with the customer of, here's what our most successful customers, in order for this to work, I want to give you a great experience. And here's, for my clients that have the best experience, here's the steps that they follow. That sounds completely different than here's what I need from you, right? Like, so you're setting them up to do this and get you everything that you need as fast as you need it. And now you've created this amazing outcome, and you've earned the right of much better, and you've decreased the effort and sacrifice for them. Because it's just as much effort. It's only how much sacrifice is really involved, right? Like, we need what we need in the form of documentation from the customer. We need what we need. And if we make that complicated and we make it, you know, one of the biggest bitches customers have, there, another company that does surveys for mortgage companies will tell you the number one bitch clients have about getting a mortgage is the loan officer kept coming back and asking for more. Kept coming back and asking for more. That's a loan officer that didn't get the right ask to begin with. And that's it. It's just that simple. So that's goes back to why you need to become really good at this mortgage guidelines and how this works and what to ask for so that you can get those expectations in place. So decrease the effort. And then the next thing is asking for the referral. And this is the part where I know that I wasn't very good at this. I did not do a good job of asking the customer for a referral. And I know that when I did, I asked very passively. I asked like, hey, if you know anybody else, don't forget, make sure you give them my name. If you know anybody else that's looking for a house, I used to always tell the customer that I talked out of doing a refinance. I always told them like, now you owe me 2 referrals because I just saved you $5,000 in closing costs because your refinance is you shouldn't do it. It's not going to benefit you. But you owe me 2 referrals now. And like, oh yeah, great. Thanks a lot. I never actually got one, but I'm sure I did, but I never actually got it because I didn't do that was probably the most aggressively I ever asked somebody for a referral. And I don't mean aggressive, like down their throat aggressive. And so, I went into ChatGPT this morning and I just asked, like, where's all the information that I could get? And I'm going to work on this a lot, because I think I have something I'm going to share with everybody. I think that, I know we can do a lot better at this. So I'm going to share my screen. This was one of the things that came up, and it was from Enact MI, a newsletter, new loan officers, new loan officer series, how to get referrals. And there's a really important part, and he talks about this. Asking for referrals is an exponential way to get leads, and everything else we do is linear when it comes to getting leads, right? So when we want a referral from a realtor, we're just getting the realtor's giving us a referral one at a time, which is great. But then you have to get another realtor to get more referrals from realtors, right? And you have to get another realtor to get more referrals from a realtor. But with a client referral, if you can get one client to refer you 2 customers, and I'm going to scroll down here a little bit, and you can see this in a table. Quarter 1, 1 customer, 2 referrals. And then quarter 2, those 2 customers give you 2 referrals each, which is 4. Now you have 4 customers giving you 2 referrals each, and you're up to 8, and 8 up to 16 and 16. It's exponential. It's not linear. It's completely different. And so I think it behooves us to figure out a way to get better at this. And then I'm going to stop talking here in a minute, and I'm going to hear from everybody else. But here's some other things that are important. 82% of Americans seek recommendations and referrals from their family and friends when considering a purchase. And that number increases to 92% for 18 to 34-year-olds. 87% of B2B buyers had a favorable impression of a salesperson who was introduced to them through someone in their professional network. Referred customers have a 16% higher lifetime value than non-referred customers. And these are customer to customer referrals. I think that's important to make that distinction. And then referred leads convert 30% better than leads generated from any other marketing channel. With all that, let's talk about effective strategies to ask. Timing is everything. So there's a few key times when asking for a referral is highly appropriate, especially when delivering good news. Those times are during the origination process, at the closing table, and right after the transaction's complete. Asking during the origination process. I don't like this script especially, but the gist of it is I like it, which is great news. I just locked your interest rate, which is really low. I don't like the way they ask, if you know anyone else looking to buy a home, our rates are so low, so good, let me know. We just got the appraisal back and the numbers are looking good. Let me know if you know of anyone who's looking to move to this neighborhood. Value seems so strong. And then at the closing table, I like this because I like this a lot. You just got the keys to your house. Do you think in the next 3 months, you could refer 2 people who might be looking to purchase or refinance their home? You ask the question like that. You're asking them and they have to respond, right? They can't like, yeah, for sure. And people are going to be a little bit caught off guard, but and I think I was afraid to ask the question. I'm being honest. I was kind of afraid to ask the question that direct. And I would guess that most of us are. I think most of us are. And I'm looking to hear your feedback. And then not too long after the closing, maybe around the time the borrower's moving to the home, ask for a referral if you haven't already. Timing it this way means your borrowers are still excited about the newness of their home, but still have the transaction, their experience on their mind. Congratulations on your new home. I hope the move went well. I'm so glad you were happy, blah, blah, blah. Referrals are extremely important in this business. I was wondering if you could refer 2 people to me over the next 3 months who are also looking to buy a home or refinance. It talks about getting specific with your request, and I'll send everybody a link to that page. One thing that I would add to that is why. Okay, so when you guys have seen these studies, persuasion studies and things like that when it comes to sales, that when you ask somebody to do something for you, like you can get people to let you cut in line at Starbucks. If you say, can I go in front of you? They won't, like, no, I'm going. It's like, can I go in front of you because my kid's in the car and I got to get him to school. Do you mind? When you give them a because, they're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. It's really funny. And so I think it would be cool to come up with and brainstorm ways that come up with a way to ask for a referral, and because. What's the because of that, right? So I'm going to open this up to hear what other people do. and how you do it and whether or not, I think this is something that for 2024 would be really fun to focus on and track and measure and see what kind of results we could get. Because like I said, so I want to hear from everybody. Let's start with Hobart. How often do you feel you're intentional about asking the client for a referral, and how do you ask?
Never.
Okay, thank you for the honesty. I was the same way, dude. I was the same way. I did it kinda, but I wasn't intentional. Casey, what about you?
Well, hey, let me say one thing.
Go ahead.
I send my newsletter out to every one in my database. So, and then my close clients get home bought. So like I'm adding value after closing in hopes that I'm top of mind so that they refer friends and family, right? So it's not direct question. It's like hey, just keep remembering me. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's never
What's that line
like,
about
hey,
hope?
Dave, can you send me a lead?
Yeah. What's that line about hope? It's not a strategy. No, dude, I get it. I did the same thing. It's just, I hoped my clients referred me as well. It wasn't a good strategy. And so Casey, what about you? Do you ask intentionally?
No, I don't. It's very indirect, right? The conversation is when we get to reviewing the closing disclosure. It's like, hey, if you thought this was a good process, if you know of anyone in the future that's buying or refinancing, please make sure that you refer them to me. Not as direct as it could be. So I do kind of work that in to a degree, right? Like I want to remind them of that through the process, but I'm never directly asking.
Okay. I'm going to ask Jacqueline, John, and Christine, just based on, I want to hear their responses. Jessica, Jay, and Jonathan, if you guys want to chime in, I know you haven't had a lot of opportunity yet to ask for referrals from clients that are closed, but I do want to hear what you're doing, whatever you're doing. Jack, go ahead.
I'm not actively asking. It's like what Hobart and Keith said, it's very passive. I think the most direct thing I say is, and it's in my newsletter, it's not even verbal. It's if you know anybody that could benefit from my services, don't keep me a secret.
Yeah, that's pretty common right there. Yeah, right on. John, you've done business for a long time. What did you do? How did you do it?
I think the most effective way that if you're asked to ask directly is if you're going to the closing with the realtor is the conversation between finishing the docs and funding. Like that's when you're sitting there bullshitting with the client and talking about their friends and their family and why they're buying the house and everything else and asking for the referral at the time, but the referral mixed with the agent, because the agent's really the sort of passion behind like, let's go look at a house, you know? So the agent, and then of course, if the agent gets a referral, they're referring back to you, you know, but in concert with your partner. I think it's really
How
effective.
intentional are you about that process?
At closing, very, outside of closing, not, honestly.
Okay, thanks. Christine?
I'm terrible at this as well. It's actually in my business plan to start doing this more. I know I was talking to Jack this last year about what she does to keep in front of her clients more. So I'm trying to shift away now that I actually have a past client database after the last few years, because I really haven't had, you know, a bunch of people until this year, I would say, to start doing things. So it's on my list of to-do.
Cool. Right on. Thank you. And thanks for the honesty. Because like I said, I think this is something that this whole industry isn't very good at. Dean, go ahead. Raise your hand.
So one of the best times to ask somebody for a referral is when they're emotionally obligated to you. And so you love the part at the closing table when people thank you, when they say thank you for doing something for them, they emotionally feel obligated to you. That's the best time to ask for a referral.
Right on. Thank you. Jessica, go ahead.
Yeah, I asked twice. So the first time I ask is after finishing the SIP presentation, I say, hey, like I don't have, you know, I don't buy leads. Like you are the marketing department for me, and I do need you to bring up my name to people. So somebody asks you about what you're doing, you're buying a house right now, it's really exciting. Just tell them to reach out to me, or the best way to do it is actually to connect us. And then I also, after go over to the closing disclosure, have a little bomb video that if everything went really super well, I say, hey, not everyone has a good experience with mortgages. So, you know, a lot of people have a lot of stress. You didn't have a lot of stress. So, you know, if you want more people to experience what you've experienced, please introduce them to me, and this is how you do it. Like, make sure you connect us, because a lot of times people won't won't reach out even though they want to, because I'm a scary lender. But as you can tell, I'm not a scary lender. I'm a nice person and I'm here to help. So just connect us. That's how I do it. But
I guess I'm not surprised that you're doing that. You really are good at connecting with your clients. So good job. Very good job. Jay or Jonathan, do you have anything to add? At this point, pretty new with client stuff. So
Yeah, no, I definitely something I could be more intentional with, for sure.
okay. Jonathan.
So go ahead. Well, Jonathan, if you got something, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I got a good test opportunity next Friday to try something, so I'll try to come up with something for the closing next Friday, yeah, but I got nothing.
Cool. Go ahead, Jeff Casey.
So when John said that, it made me remember one of my earliest closings. The agents sat down when we were at closing and actually pulled out a piece of paper and said, asked them, said, "Hey, did you appreciate everything we did for you within this process?" Like, yeah, that was great. And they were like, "Great. Here you go. Do you mind filling out 3 names of your friends or contacts that you feel that might be buying in the next year or 2? And I sat there and I was like, holy shit, are you serious right now? Like, it felt so uncomfortable for me sitting there, but then the guy filled it out, handed it right back to him. He's like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah. This is worth pursuing as a goal for 2024 as a group. And I really want to so I'm going to dig as much as I can to provide as much information as I can, scripting and things like that, resources. HomeBot has some stuff. I read it through it. It wasn't that good. It was okay. But using HomeBot as one of those tools, right? Like, and so there's a Tom Ferry link. So like I said, ChatGPT, I'm actually working on how to leverage that tool as much as I can. And so I was like, I'm going to just ask ChatGPT this question. And it was really funny because it pulled up specific links to mortgage articles that, that we know about. Anyway, I'm going to encourage all of you, and I'm still waiting. I have to finalize, Jessica, you and I have to meet, I think this afternoon on the rest of your goals, and then finalize your goals for 24. And then Christine, I'm still waiting for your numbers. We still need to get together on that. But I think 2024 for your goals, I just read the chapter this week and heard the chapter this week. I'm listening to the audio book and reading the book. It's that good where I'm reading it like, I'm going to do this at the same time. So I'm underlining this. This is what I'm doing in my sauna every morning now, is like, I'm just reading this book and listening to chapters over and over again. There's some really good information, but this one on referrals, I think be really cool to see at the end of the year, by becoming really intentional, keeping track of how many times you ask and what the result of you asking as many times as you did, and getting better at figuring out the text. So that's what, and I had a really good, strong recruiting meeting this past week with a loan officer here in town that is coming in next week for further discussions. And one of the things that I told him was that I'm looking for loan officers that are really engaged and that want to participate in this. This is something that I think is really important as a company, as a culture, because I want this to be an environment where you feel like we compete enough out there in the marketplace. I know you guys compete a little bit internally, but we compete enough out there in the marketplace that this is the team that we need to be supportive of and help each other. And so I'm only interested in having loan officers that want to share what they're doing, because I'm expecting all of you guys to share everything that you're doing to help each other as much as you possibly can. And because that's what we're doing, right? That's what we're trying to do, is share as much as possible. And I think this is a really strong agenda item for 2024 to get really good at. It would be really fun to have an entire program that we build out that we can use for new loan officers as they come in, to show them how's that going. Because I would guess that your answers are very unremarkably different from all the other loan officers that I would ask that question to. And if anybody's asking, they're asking very passively. And I'm guessing it would be a very, very small minority of people that are asking very directly, like so as something along the lines of, I don't know if you know this, but I don't market, like, I love the way you said it, Jessica, is like, I don't buy leads, and that's not how I do business. All of my business is word of mouth and past client referrals and referrals from real estate partners. And so if, especially when you ask at good news, like this article that I'm gonna send you a link to talks about, you've gotten the appraisal in, good time to ask. you've issued the final approval, clear to close, good time to ask. And then at closing, right, it's good time to ask. And then after closing, it's a good time to ask, like, how many times are you gonna ask? Like, now, I don't know the answer to that. And we're all afraid of imposing, right? Like, I don't want to impose, but if you've given them a great experience and it was really fast, right? Like, so that's where that two-touch approval is really an important part of this, and setting them up for that. Just say, here's the clients that have the best experience. Here's what they do. I put a list together. It's as thorough a list, and I may, based on what you give me, need more. And if I do, I'll let you know. And then I'm going to put this in front of underwriting. My goal is to get you through the approval process with the least amount of stress as possible and in the shortest amount of time possible, because it's a very anxiety driven event, is getting approved for a mortgage. You're always like, you're pretty sure you're getting the loan, and I think you're getting the loan, but until I tell you it's official, there's always going to be a question mark in your mind. And I want to get that out of there for you as fast as I can. And now you've set yourself up to ask, right? And I'd love to hear some ideas. So let's think about this. We'll talk about it more next week. Think about this, like because after you ask for the referral, because why, and see what kind of results we get. And then let's start trying it. Like I would love to hear what you try and how you do it and what kind of results you get. So next week we can talk about this. All right. This will be really fun. I think this will be a really cool topic to cover for this week. So, that's it. Does anybody have anything else they want to add or questions or anything? Right. Right on. Have an awesome Friday.